Success. We all chase it in football. Every single one of us dreams of a famous night under the lights. After decades in the wilderness, these nights have returned for one of England's most historic clubs. Aston Villa, who just over 5 years ago were playing in the Championship, have returned to the Champions League. Having won the European Cup in the 1980s, Villa fans feel they're back where they belong. But this success comes at a cost, and like so much in football, this cost has fallen at the feet of the supporters. At FanHub, we want to hear the stories of fans who have been part of the journey, hear their memories, and find out what is the true cost of success.
Aston Villa means everything to me. It's been in my blood, it's in my family since a little boy, and I think it's just such a huge part of me as a human.
24/7 I'm thinking about Villa. I go to bed thinking about them. I wake up thinking about them.
I started supporting Aston Villa because of my family. I actually, as a baby, the first thing I wore was an Aston Villa kit that my auntie brought for me. But no, my granddad, my mum are all Aston Villa fans. Could have supported Coventry because my family do. Could have supported Villa, but I think I chose the right club.
Steeped in history, Villa spent the early 1980s at the pinnacle of English football. Winning the league in 81, then the European Cup at the first time of asking a year later. Whilst this level of success couldn't be maintained, it further built Villa's stature within the game.
And I just think Villa fans are really proud of what we achieved back then.
We won the European Cup in our first appearance in it, and then we got to the quarterfinals the year after, losing to a Juventus team littered with stars. We haven't appeared in the European Cup then, or as it's now called the Champions League, until this season.
Villa gets sort of mentioned as like a sleeping giant, and that's why we're a sleeping giant, because we've won stuff that a lot of English teams haven't won it.
So yeah, it's not like we've got a massive pedigree in the European Cup, but hopefully we'll be building that over the years to come.
After an inconsistent spell, the club were relegated to the second division in 87, but bounced straight back to the top flight, where shortly after the club became a founding member of the Premier League. Despite a League Cup win and brief flirtations with the UEFA Cup in the decades that followed, success was few and far between at Villa Park. And come 2016, Aston Villa had slumped to their lowest ebb. Finishing rock bottom of the Premier League, they ended their 28-year spell in the top flight with a whimper. It was a devastating blow to supporters. The future looked uncertain, and the path back to the heights of Europe seemed further away than ever.
The 2016 season was absolutely horrendous for an Aston Villa fan.
When we were going down, it was very, very bad. It was very dark. Players falling out with the fans in games. You just don't see any sort of light at the end of the tunnel. And we were a club that had not been relegated from the Premier League, so as like Everton. We've been in that league forever, and it was just terrible, really. And you don't want to look back and think about it, really, because it was that bad.
Yeah, it was difficult. Obviously, we have our highs and the lows in the Championship.
But you know what I think back in hindsight? I think it's what we needed. I think sometimes you need a bit of a reset to come back stronger, and that's what we've done.
So the first season we were in the Championship, it goes under the radar. We finished mid-table, Villa, and we didn't actually do anything really that season. But the season after, with Steve Bruce, we wanted to push on because we signed a lot more players, ended up losing the playoff final. And that third season, when Dean Smith come in, that's the moment where Villa fans started going, this has got to be our year. And like I say, one of the best years of my life supporting Villa, because it was so enjoyable going to games. Fans connected with the club so well. The manager was a Villa fan, Dean Smith. We had Jack Grealish, who was a Villa fan in his prime. We had the kit maker Luke, who was also a Villa fan. And Villa, we just knew that season that was our season.
After the historic promotion back to the Premier League, Villa have had the wind in their sails. Although Dean Smith departed and an unremarkable spell under Steven Gerrard followed, Unai Emery's arrival has taken Villa to the next level. A first European semi-final for 40 years in the Europa Conference League has been followed by a Champions League qualification. Aston Villa fans are buzzing with performances on the pitch.
Since Unai Emery's come into this football club, he has just transformed it.
Unai Emery has changed this club so much. We were 2-0 down recently against Wolves at home, and the fans were pretty calm, because we know, stick to the plan, we're going to be all right.
The atmosphere here now is just tremendous. Like, even when we're losing, even if you look at this season, we've been behind in our last 2 games. Not once did I think we were going to lose. We're just a different animal now under Emery, and the fans just absolutely love him, and I just think we're going to go from strength to strength.
We had 3 games towards the end of last season at home where the team bus would come right through this road here, and we'd have fans with loads of flares and the smoke bombs and things, and singing and really getting behind and really pushing the players to finish the season, because we had a lot of games towards the end of last season where we didn't know if we were going to make the Champions League because the amount of games, and the atmosphere inside Villa Park and outside the stadium really helped the players. And yeah, that's what I definitely think the fans have definitely played a big part in our success.
Although it was the fans that helped drive the team over the line last season, this campaign has seen frustrations off the pitch rise. Villa's historic Champions League qualification has been dented by huge ticket prices, with the cheapest ticket costing £85, pricing a number of loyal fans out of the game.
So recently, there has been a bit of pain to go along with all the positives. Big time in terms of ticket prices. That's been the big talking point for a lot of Villa fans, where obviously the club are trying to get the money in, but I do think they've forgotten about a lot of the fans that were there, through those bleak Championship years. There are fans that were there then that now can't afford to go. They've been priced out of the games.
And I think a balancing act needs to be had between balancing it with the fans, but also making sure that the club are prospering as well.
Villa need to really be careful about the hospitality and what they're doing, because someone with a hospitality season ticket actually has more priority over a fan. Someone like me, who's been seeing us in the Championship and been going to games for 4 or 5 years, they actually have more priority going to away games than someone like me, because they have their own singular bracket where they get tickets held for them.
After COVID, there was all that strap line of football's nothing without the fans. As soon as fans get back in there, prices start going up.
But the real salt in the wound of this new price increase that they've put in is there's been some shoddiness at the match day. There's queues outside the ground, sometimes of 25 to 35, 40 minutes or something to get in the ground because of the new digital ticketing system. Now, the first game of the season, there was a urine overflowing in the toilets. And this is not a good look for a team that want to be Champions League.
How long do the good times last for? Who's going to be here if form dips, or if we don't achieve Champions League for the next, it took us 40 years to get here now, so it took a long time. So I think they've just got to be really careful of not pricing out fans, but also not sort of stopping the younger fans from coming. Kids are the future of the football club.
I think the club get it. They've put out a statement, and I do believe they'll get it right, but there's been a lot of things lately which Villa fans have been pretty upset about, and I'm going to be honest, it's not good enough.
We're a working class club. We're a club that was the founder of the first football league. I think Villa do need to kind of take a step back and realise that if they want to be holding their fans, these fans that have been coming for years, they need to treat us a little bit better.
What you don't want is the enjoyment of getting back into the Champions League to be overshadowed by a ticket pricing issue or a frustration from the fan base. So for me personally, it did put a little bit of a downer on it, but I think over time, we're just going to adapt to it.
Unfortunately, this issue isn't just felt at Aston Villa. Supporters across the country have had to adapt to price rises at all levels of the game. So much needs to change if football fans are to be fairly valued. The loyalty of fans should be celebrated and rewarded by their clubs, not squeezed dry. Ultimately, at Aston Villa, whilst there is an understandable buzz from supporters, it is twinned with a bittersweet feeling that their loyalty is being taken advantage of. This is the cost of success in football.